Welcome into Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. Thanks so much for being with us. I'm Madelyn Burke. He's Howard Cross, at Madelyn Burke, at Howard Cross 87. The phone number here is 201-939-4513, or you can find us on social media at #GiantsChat. And as a reminder, you can find the archive of this show and all of our podcasts in our entire podcast network. On the Giants mobile app, podcast platforms everywhere as well, and on giants.com/podcast. It's a Tuesday news day here on the bye week, November 28th, live from East Rutherford, New Jersey, Quest Diagnostics Training Center. Madelyn Burke and Howard Cross on Big Blue Kickoff. Howard, it's the bye week. Finally, it is the bye week. The Giants have such a late bye week this year, and it is wild to me that looking at the schedule, we have just 5 games remaining after the bye. I was talking to Maz, who's producing our show today. He's like, it's kind of like when you take a late lunch. If you go to lunch at like 2 p.m., you have lunch, and then you come back from lunch and the day's pretty much over. You're practically going home. That's how this season feels. It feels like a late lunch.
Well, late lunch or not, I said, they always say this. It couldn't come at a better time. It would have been a better time a few weeks ago, but we get what you get. It's been a very interesting schedule. The schedule makers did a really interesting job, I would say.
Interesting. That's a kind word.
That's a kind word. Interesting job. And the Giants had a tough schedule, like a lot of primetime games. Still another primetime game coming up.
I know.
And it's like amazing to me. And now they're like, okay, you can have a break now. They're like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
But you still haven't finished.
Yeah.
Okay, so
But
see.
wait, there's more. Call now and we'll give you 5 more games for the price of one. Just pay shipping and handling.
Absolutely.
No, I mean, you mentioned that the Giants come back from the bye with a Monday Night Football game against the Packers at home. And then, they also have another Monday game on Christmas Day, even though that's not prime time exactly. It's a 4:30 holiday game, which is Christmas Day.
The NFL just can't leave.
Have you not looked at the schedule yet?
No, I
like living through Howard's life. He's just, so whimsical, like a plastic bag floating in the wind.
I just get on the bus when they call me, okay, show up here. This is what you got to do.
Tell me when to go.
I'm like, wow, this is what we're playing this week. I'm watching the tapes. I'm like, why am I watching this game? I'm like, we play them next week. That's true. Okay, but it's fun though.
So, with going into the bye with back-to-back wins, though, that's some great momentum for this team to have. And it's a great moment for me to get real delusional on you guys because as Howard rolls his eyes,
please don't do it.
Giants have won 2 games in a row. The Vikings just lost on Monday Night Football. The NFC, the Giants are only 2 games out of the playoffs. And which again, I admit I preceded this statement by acknowledging that I'm about to get real delusional on you all. But the fact that we are at this point of the season, and what a plot twist that would be if this team's like, skirt, and now we're going to the playoffs. Even if they don't go to the playoffs and they win, a couple of their remaining games. They got Green Bay, New Orleans, the Rams, and Philly twice. That's going to be hard. The other 3, possible, winnable. You finish with 7 wins. A lot of people out there who are already looking at the draft might be upset, but at the beginning of this season, when we were previewing the season, 7 wins was kind of the target area, was kind of the point where everyone was saying, yeah, that feels about right. So if this team at this point in the season ends up where in the beginning of the year we thought they would, I like that you're smirking. I told you I was getting delusional on a Tuesday.
I'm not going to say anything.
It's the Lululemon over here.
It's definitely Lululemon. It's a little tight, too. It's going to cut off some circulation, I believe. I don't know what's going on with that. Look, yes, they can win a few more games.
Yeah.
If they win, let me think, 2 or 3 of games, that would be the 7 wins, right?
3 more games would be 7 wins. They're at 4-8 right now at the bye. They've got 5 remaining games.
Then we'll leave it at that. If they win the 3 more games, we'll take that. But the whole playoff thing, playoffs? We're talking playoffs.
I mean, the way that the NFC playoff picture is shaping up, I could see an 8-win team sneaking into the playoffs. And if Philly, is clinched the number 1 seed,
and then they're like sleeping on their morals.
Maybe they're resting to stay healthy, especially that last game of the season.
I know that's the last game of the season. I knew that.
Oh, you did?
I didn't know that.
Look at Howard. High five.
I got one thing right.
Look at this man knowing this schedule. I'm so proud of you. I mean, it's to quote the great big ticket Kevin Garnett. Anything is possible. Right? You know, it's not over yet.
Sit here and no more camera. I don't want to say anything.
I know. Listen, I'm getting real delulu for you, but you know what? We got to keep it spicy. It's the bye week. We got to, let's give them something to talk about.
Keep going. Let's grind it. There's going to be calls. The phone's going to laugh. You know what, Madelyn? You're right. We got a shot.
So you're telling me there's a chance. Let's hear from Lloyd Christmas. What was all that 1 in a million talk, eh?
My goodness.
Speaking of phones, phone lines are already lighting up. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. Before we get to some callers, just want to remind you guys, Giants fans, take your fandom to the next level with the season ticket membership. Stay connected to the club all year round, not just on game days. Memberships are now available for the 2023 season. To learn more about the exclusive member benefits, visit giants.com/tickets. Limited inventory is available. 201-939-4513. Let's go to the phone lines because they're filling up already.
Because they heard you're talking about playoffs. Okay.
They're like, okay, let's get this delusional woman grounded.
Let's bring her back.
10 toes on the ground. Dan in the Poconos. Line 2, Dan in the Poconos. You're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Madelyn and Howard. How's it going, Dan?
Hey, Dan, what's happening?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
Awesome,
we are thriving.
It's a pleasure to talk to you as always. Just a couple of quick things. I don't have too much to bring, but I love your optimism. Wouldn't it be great?
Thank you.
I mean,
see, Dan gets it.
My pleasure. I mean, who doesn't love optimism? I mean, the Giants are playing good, right? The I mean, let me rephrase that. The defense is playing good. The offense is what it is, But I swear, it would make I don't know, my year. If we could just win one of those games against the Eagles, wouldn't that just? I know I'm living in fantasy land. I know it.
Hey, it's a lot. There's sunshine over here in fantasy land, Dan. Join me. It's so much more fun.
It is more fun. I gotta hand it to you without a doubt. But anyway, one question I have. I got tickets for the Green Bay game. Now I heard that they were talking about flexing it. I mean, I know they had 12 days. They're supposed to the deadline to announce it. So is that staying on Monday night, you think?
My understanding is actually with Monday night, much like Thursday night, it has to be 3 weeks out to flex. Is that correct? Because when you look at the travel
for the
contingencies for the teams, if you flex from Sunday afternoon to Sunday night, it's still the same days at the hotels. But when you're flexing from a Sunday to Monday or vice versa, not only is there hotel logistics that you have to do for the visiting teams, but in this case, the Jets game, it would have to be a swap with the Jets game because of the venue. And so I'm.
So we're looking at Monday.
Yeah, we're looking at Monday, from my understanding.
Cold, dark, Monday night.
Yeah.
I like how we balance each other out. I'm all over here, rainbows and sun. It's raining Skittles in my world, and Howard's like cold, dark.
It's gonna be windy. I'm gonna be out there on the sideline. I'm gonna be cold.
You have a battery-powered heated vest.
I got several, but it's still gonna be cold, and windy.
It's gonna be cold. Dan, I hope you've got a heated vest for you for that one.
Oh, I got my. I'll be all bundled up together. I'll be good. I'll be good. And one other thing, I hope they stick with DeVito and just play him out so we can get some kind of evaluation, continue evaluating this guy. And I know it's tough with the O-line being what it is, but I hope they stick with him, But anyway, have a great one, guys. And why ain't you having a show the rest of the week, man? I'm pissed off.
Well, players have the bye week, coaches have the bye week. Staff needs a bye week too. The staff, not just the people on camera and hosting the shows, but people like Maz and Pearson and everyone behind the scenes that cuts it and posts it. They need a break too. They work hard all year.
They're so sweet.
But we'll be back. We'll be back. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, Dan. We got to let you miss us for a little bit, and then we'll be back next week.
Yes, you will be missed. All right.
That is so funny.
See ya.
Thanks so much. And, he makes a good point about DeVito staying as the starter. I think, you look at it and you've got, if Tyrod is healthy enough, is good to go, is, back from IR. Of course, he's the veteran.
Yes.
His contract is up at the end of this year as well. DeVito, you're riding that momentum, that hot hand, that young guy. And in this position, I think that there's a little bit something to it to say, okay, let's stick with where we are. If it's not broke, don't fix it. But what do you think? I mean, you can't go wrong in this scenario.
You definitely can't go wrong. I don't know, at where you're going with that, with the comment or the question, but let's look at it like this. If you're saying let's try to give it our best chance to win, if you feel like DeVito's like still playing and he's going to give you the best chance to win, you stick with him. His advantage right now is he doesn't turn the ball over.
Right.
Right. He takes a lot of sacks. He takes a lot of hits. But he doesn't turn the ball over.
He had that. He was credited with that one fumble on that handoff to Wan'Dale Robinson in the jet sweep. But that could have gone either way. Could have been a Wan'Dale. Could have been him.
Wan'Dale missed the handoff.
Exactly. But they put it on DeVito. But you're right. Other than that, he does not.
Yeah, he did. The only time I've seen him throw one ball into danger. Outside of that, he hasn't done that at all. And I think it's going to be his big thing is going to be our team's going to blitz the Giants for the rest of the season and keep coming after him, trying to confuse that offensive line. Or are they going to sit back in zone and let's see if they can, figure out a way to stop him? Because if it's me and I'm an opposing team, like Green Bay's got a chance to make the playoffs, right? Mm-hmm. They need this win, so they're going to blitz early. The Rams have a chance to make the playoffs, so they're probably going to be blitzing. I think the South with the Saints, they have a chance, so they're going to be
Saints.
blitzing.
Yeah, I believe it's Saints. Also have 5 wins on the season. Yeah. So I mean,
but they have a chance to win the South, though.
Oh,
yeah. So they, between them and Atlanta right now in the South, so they'll be trying to blitz and get after them. When the Eagles games come around, they'll probably be trying to play zone in theory because they've already wrapped it up. So they're going to be trying to work on something else that they need to get better at, during the offseason. But it's the things that you're going to be facing. That he's going to be facing. He'll be facing blitzes because people are going to be trying to get to him, trying to confuse him, get him off his game early. Don't let him throw the ball down the field because if guys are open and you're giving him time, he can hit guys. He can hit open receivers just like every other quarterback in the league. As far as staying with the hot hand, I think he's doing a good job. I think that the guys have rallied around him to support him because they know, you're undrafted rookie. We got your back. Let's go. If you're out here fighting, we're out here fighting. So I think I like that part about it. It just depends on who else gets healthy around him and can help him out to support him.
I do agree, and I think that there is something to that kind of locker room mentality as well. The way that the team is rallied around him and this thing right here and, the celebration. And, yesterday we heard from head coach Brian Dable. We also heard from GM Joe Shane, which oftentimes we'll do at the bye week. And one of the things that Joe Shane talked about was the Leonard Williams trade, and the reports that came out about how he had a conversation with Leo about that before actually making the trade. And he said, yeah, not everyone gets that, but there are things to consider when you're making roster adjustments, when you're making moves. And one of those things is the human element, the way it affects a locker room. And the fact that this organization, the way that it is constructed right now, takes that into account. It's not all about X's and O's and numbers and stats and what the data says, but it's also the human element that they take into consideration, the ripple effects in the locker room, the way that it will affect the dynamics. So I bring that up to say that the momentum, the camaraderie, the kind of joy that this team seems to be playing with around Tommy DeVito, I don't see them saying, okay, let's pivot off of that just because Tyrod is more veteran.
No, I mean, every coach in the league would ride the hot hand
exactly
at this point in the season. So they're going to try to get, he'll be a little bit better than he was last week. He's a little bit better than he was the week before. He should get a little bit better this coming week after the bye. Where everybody else might be going to get that quote unquote, I got to get away from football. I need to take a break. DeVito's going to be studying and watching tape and trying to see where he could get better every step of the way because that's what he has to do because he's a rookie.
Yeah, exactly. And and being an undrafted rookie too, he's known from day one that he has to work harder and smarter to kind of prove that, and he has done that and continuing to do that. And so we're looking forward to seeing how that continues to evolve.
Absolutely.
Giants fans, make sure you go and subscribe to the Giants Huddle podcast. It features long-form interviews with Giants players, coaches, and front office staff, past and present. Plus, hear from the best analysts covering Big Blue and the NFL. Search for Giants Huddle and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, or simply go to giants.com/podcast. And don't forget, if you're on Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star positive review for all of our Giants podcasts. We love the feedback. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let us know how we're doing and what you're thinking. 201-939-4513 is the phone number as we go back to the phone lines. James in Georgia, you're on Big Blue Kickoff Live on this Tuesday with Madelyn Burke and Howard Cross.
Hey, James.
What's going on? Howard? What's going on, Madelyn? How y'all doing today?
Doing well. Thanks for calling in.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you as well.
No problem. Thanks for taking my call. Good win. Let me start by saying, last week I called in. I prefaced my call talked to Paul and Lance, I said, I'm the type of fan, I always want to win. I'm not a tank fan. I don't like losing to want to tank, right?
Yep.
But I was telling him I was listening to the Chris Candy show, and he was talking about the validity in tanking and how it could help franchises, this and that, right? Now, with that being said, I'm definitely on team. If we could find a way to win 4 out of the next 5, which 3 of them, the non-conference games are quote-unquote winnable games somehow for this team, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
We have the formula to keep the score low and beat some of these teams that aren't as good and mess around and make the playoffs.
Playoffs? See, James is on board.
Oh, man, it is sunny somewhere, man. It's really bright out there in Georgia.
Southeast Georgia, yeah, Cleveland, Georgia.
Wow.
We're smelling the roses that are growing through the frost.
Wow.
You know?
I love it.
I feel it.
And last week I also called and I said, no matter what, win, lose, or draw for the rest of the season, no matter what our outcome is, we're going to have to draft a quarterback because Daniel Jones will probably be in the same situation Kyler Murray was in, or we might not see him until about week 8, right?
No, I think the way
No.
they got his schedule, he'll be starting out the first of the year. Now, where he will be health wise, first of the season is going to be interesting. But he should be cleared to play probably by the first game.
Yeah.
I was saying this before Shane even said yesterday. He might be week 1. You know what I'm saying? There's a 50-50. He might not come back till week 6 or week 5. He might not be cleared by week 1.
Technology.
So that's what Shane was saying. You have to,
I know we got to have a backup plan. We're pulling for him to be healthy. Believe me. But,
right.
But the way. It depends. With knees, I think that you get a chance to come back as early as possible these days. But sometimes, because he's a runner, that might make a big difference. So I'm not really sure.
Well, and there's so many variables that can go into a rehab process, how it'll unfold. But yes, go ahead, James.
My last point that I want to just reiterate on, and there are at least 6 quarterbacks that are projected through the first 2 rounds that had better statistical college careers than Daniel Jones. Like, I know they like Jones, but they're going to be guys like Jaden Daniels. I called on it, for example. He's not projected to go to the second round. So no matter how this season ends up, you have a chance to take a quarterback that statistically had a better college career than Jones. So even if you do the Eli Manning route where we had Kurt Warner transition into Eli Manning, you're going to have Jones transition into one of these quarterbacks who, statistically speaking, now that's not saying that'll pan out one way or the other, better than what Jones was when he came out. So projections, things like that, you're going to have a decision to make. I say take one of these guys, from Caleb Williams to Jaden Daniels. There's Bo Nix in there. There's Penix Jr. All those guys had better college careers. JJ, Drake May, they all had better college careers than Jones. Let's go Giants. Let's get us another win after the bye. Take the rest off there. Thank you.
Right. Thanks so much for the call, James. Appreciate it. It is so interesting when you're talking about scouting a college quarterback into the NFL. Hindsight is 20/20, and oftentimes we get so caught up in the talent that these guys have collegiately. But then when you go back and look at it, like at Joe Shane's presser yesterday, he alluded to the fact that he was looking at the 2018 draft and saying, going back there, you look at that draft, 4 quarterbacks in the top 10, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, and Josh Rosen. Josh Rosen, not even in the league, right?
No.
Baker Mayfield, he's had his struggles.
Like 16.
Sam Darnold, we've seen him ebb and flow and come and go. Now he's backing up in San Francisco.
I think he's still hanging on.
He's still in the league, but again, number 3 overall pick is now a backup and won that backup job. And then Josh Allen, he's having success in Buffalo. But of those 4 quarterbacks, that year, you remember the conversation around Josh Rosen?
Yeah.
You remember the conversation around Sam Darnold? You remember how much draft analysts
can't miss guys.
Can't miss prospect. Look at this talent. Look at this. And some of these guys aren't even in the league. So I caution people, because every year we get caught up in this machine of like, look how talented this quarterback is. This guy is going to change the game. And every once in a while you hit on that too. But the college to pro transition at quarterback especially is such a tough one. The geometry of the game is different. The hash marks are at a different point. The scheme, there's so many differences in the game. The actual ball itself is a different ball. There's so many differences there that you can't just be like, oh, this guy was a great college quarterback. How many Heisman winning quarterbacks, Matt Leinart, you know, like that just don't translate, Tim Tebow, that don't translate to the NFL. And I'm not saying it's like, oh, if you're good in college, you're not good in the NFL. I'm just saying it's not a certainty.
I laugh at the you got to pick the quarterback. You got to pick the quarterback. We need a quarterback. We got to get a quarterback really quickly. And I'm like, well, what was the biggest issue this year?
Offensive line.
Couldn't block nobody, right?
Exactly.
So if you get a great quarterback and you still ain't blocking anybody, he'll be, you know, getting up off the dirt too. So
yeah,
you answer your, you know, I know we're supposed to draft the best player available, and I get the best player available all the time. But man, if you're not drafting linemen and trying to figure out how to plug some holes, I don't care who you draft.
Right.
You can bring anybody back you want to. They are not. You can put Cam Newton's body behind that line. I mean, it's just, if they're not able to block, if they're not able to hold up, you got to have guys in there that's going to, you know, continue to get stronger. You got hopefully 3 of the 5 guys you may have, you know, 2 of the 5 guys. We don't know how many guys you got that are going to be able to like hang on. You got 1 Pro Bowler, you know, you got a rookie center that's doing pretty good. You're hoping your other tackle is going to be strong enough to play. And then you got the 2 guards that you're like, they started the season saying we're trying to find the right combination of player to play that position.
Right. And to James's credit too, I mean, there is validity. Joe Shane did say yesterday that quarterback is a position of need this offseason.
Yeah, it is.
And he did say, you know, whether through the draft or free agency, they will be looking to add quarterback depth because, yes, you got Tommy DeVito under quarterback. Tyrod's deal is up this year.
Absolutely.
But whether through the draft or free agency doesn't mean a first-round pick.
No.
Doesn't mean they're targeting Caleb Williams or Drake May. But, yes, there are going to be needs and considerations to address that position among many others. Is that position priority 1A? No.
I'm going to go with offensive line.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
And again, I'm not downing the guys we got, but we definitely got to find a way to really have a big upswing in offensive line. We got some great receivers. You got a really good tight end. You got a great running back. But if they can't get started, you're starting with 4 flat tires, kind of, as I tell people. If you can't get it started, and it affects not only the offense, it affects the defense, because if it's 3 and out and you give the ball back to the other team, the defense is back on the field again really quickly, and eventually they start to wear down. You got to find a way to get protection for your quarterbacks, your running backs. You got to start at the base of the everything, and that's your offensive line.
Absolutely. Giants fans, the 2023 NFL schedule is officially out, and single-game tickets are on sale now. Don't miss the Giants at MetLife Stadium this year. Visit giants.com/tickets to secure your seat today. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. As we go back to the phone lines, Hugo in New Jersey. Hugo, you're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Madelyn and Howard.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Doing well. How are you?
Great. I'm doing okay. So I listened to the Joe Shane presser yesterday, and you know, I am a big fan of Joe Shane, but I do need to correct one thing he said. When talking about the punt returner situation. He said that the decision to cut Jamison Crowder was really a decision about keeping an 8th wide receiver or not keeping an 8th wide receiver. That's not true. The Giants kept 6 receivers on the 53-man roster, and now they're at 7 with the addition of Schletzky. So that, I mean, you know, he took the blame for that, which is, I think, the major point, but the rationale he gave was just factually not true.
I think he said 8th when he meant to say 7th, but it was keeping an extra wide receiver, keeping one more in that group, and where you take it away from another group.
Okay.
The number was wrong, but the meaning behind it was correct.
Okay. And the reason why I'm sensitive to it is because in the preseason I called in and said they ought to keep 7, and the 7th should be the punt returner, it should be Crowder. So when I heard him say that, I was like, oh, that's not okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
You know how, like, when you're so caught up in the way the roster's constructed now, you're like, oh, we wanted to keep one more. He probably just got the number wrong, but the meaning of it was, do we keep one more in that group, or do we put that extra position in another group? And they opted for the latter.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as it turns out, we're at 7, and I'm not sure the punt returner can even give you some downs as a receiver, because I'm not really sure about that, where Crowder could. My point is, if he had to do it over, I'm sure he would have taken a different approach, and I think he kind of admitted that.
He did, yeah.
Anyhow, let's move on. I have a question about 11 versus 12 personnel.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I've done a lot of thinking about this, because there was a caller, I think his name was Donnie from Queens, who says he doesn't like the pass-catching tight ends because he thinks they don't really give you anything, in the blocking game, and not anything more than a wide receiver, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought about it in terms of Kafka from the Kansas City tree and Dable from the New England tree, right? So earlier in the season, when we had Waller on the field, right, he kind of played, I think this is right, he played the big slot position.
Sometimes.
And well, here's my point. The Kansas City tight end is an overall tight end, obviously. Yeah, he's an overall tight end. But I see his effectiveness downfield. And then when in the Patriots, when they had Aaron Hernandez, he was also a downfield threat. But because the Giants were having such O-line issues early in the year, what I saw was Waller doing like a lot of crossers within like a 10-yard box of the line of scrimmage. Now, I also think about when New England no longer had Hernandez, they went to quick guys who could win, at the release point and do crossers and whip routes and all that kind of stuff. Just win quickly, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking maybe earlier in the year, and I know Wandale was kind of hurt for a while, but it would have been more effective to have 11 personnel instead of 12 personnel. But now that the offensive line has somewhat stabilized, could we really see what the Giants wanted to get out of Waller, with him being more of a downfield threat, and stressing the safeties and that sort of thing? And Howard, since you're one of the greatest tight ends that ever played here, I called in so you could take that question.
Well, thank you. 11 personnel versus 12 personnel. Well, it depends. The offensive line can hold up mostly. It's not a question of the personnel. I think that when you have tight ends that can move to the slot, come in line and put their hand in the dirt, so to speak, that gives you more variety of plays you can call.
Oh, yeah.
When you have a guy that has to be, or he's basically the receiving tight end, as people would label him, then it's a little bit harder. I think Kelsey does a great job, but you have to remember, when people think about Kelsey and how great he is, just remember Kelsey used to be a quarterback. So he has a better understanding, a better feel for not just the routes he was running, where vacant spaces are, and it looks different when he's playing. Some of the other tight ends that are playing have better quarterbacks out there that are playing, but Kelsey is a unique person because of the way that he plays, and he understands it. I think the tight end out in San Francisco is more of a inline blocking kind of a guy that will get after you. He will slide out to the slot sometime and run a few routes. As far as the offense goes and what they're trying to do, you want Hyatt and Slayton down the field deep as much as possible. You want to be able to control the middle of the field always. And if you can get the tight end to quote unquote control the middle of the field, not so much crossing routes, but just the middle of the field, the quick in cuts,
right.
The quick outs and stuff right around that 10 to 12 yard area, that can change the way the game is played. But it only works if the play action pass is working. It only works if the quarterback isn't scrambling for his life. So if they can do that, guys like Waller, Bellinger, what's our other last tight end?
Cager?
Cager, yes.
Cager, yeah. Lawrence Cager,
and Cager. All three guys can have a big effect in the game. But the downfield passes, as you saw, Hyatt is starting to blow off the ball, and they're like, you know what, we're just going to try it. And that's changing the game, and that opens the middle of the field for those guys as well.
Okay. Well, very good. That was a good explanation. Thanks so much for taking my call.
No problem.
Thanks so much for the call, Hugo. I also think it's interesting when you look at it, strictly from a personnel standpoint versus from an individual standpoint. Oftentimes, each tight end has an individual skill set. Daniel Bellinger coming out of San Diego State was somebody who was known as a blocking tight end, but then, when you saw the ability of him getting involved in the passing game, the connection he and Daniel Jones had as well, and, some of it is personnel-wise, as you just explained, and some of it is looking at the individual skill set of the individual player.
I mean, yes, but most players at tight end can do both. Not many tight ends come in the league and they can't catch the ball.
Right, but there's there's an area in which you're strong at this versus.
Well, if you're smart, you'll develop. The thing that the guys always think about, and this is like the fantasy football part of football. Like catching the ball gives you fantasy points. But being able to block somebody so they can throw the ball or run the ball gets you wins.
Right.
And I think that people kind of miss the idea that if he's in the game, they're going to run away from him because he can't be the point of attack and a block. It kind of hamstrings you sometimes when they know if so-and-so's in the game, he's not, the best blocker. But, Waller actually came in and tried to, they lined him up at we call it the down or the wide position, put his hand in there, and they ran right behind him. That helps. If you can do that, that changes the game, and then they can't predict what you're going to do. And that's what you're trying to get. You're trying to get a lot of, predictability out of your offense so people can't preset you and line up to do different things. And if Waller's in his hands in the dirt at the wide position and he releases, it wreaks havoc in the defense.
Keep them on their toes is where they got to be. Got to keep them guessing. Giants fans, the Giants official connected TV streaming app Giants TV brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. Giants TV is free on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV, and on the Giants mobile app. 201-939-4513 is the phone number as we go back to the phone lines. Vic in San Francisco.
San Fran.
Bay Area.
Yeah, liking it.
Vic, you're on the line on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Madelyn and Howard. How's it going?
Yay, area.
Yeah.
Actually, guys, I'm actually in Las Vegas. I'm just a San Francisco native.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I was going to say this was some false advertisement on this call, Doc.
Anyway, I just wanted to talk about the quarterback situation, but it's kind of all over the place. The Giants have a lot of different ways they could go next year. And I'm not sure which direction he's going to go. But, Howard, I heard you talking about that offensive line, and I agree with you. Everything starts there. But something with the Giants, it's like I don't want them to draft an O-lineman in the first round with that first pick because, I don't know if it's their evaluations or what's going on, but it seems like every time they draft the top lineman, the guy doesn't pan out. Andrew Thomas panned out.
I'm about to say, Andrew Thomas looks really good.
he did. But, he was one of I don't know how many guys that have come through, starting from way back with Flowers and all these other guys, and now Evan Neal.
Yeah, but
Neal was a high draft pick, and the guy looks horrible. Not saying that he can't get better,
but he's also been injured most of his career.
True. But my thing is, I'm just saying that I don't want them to draft an O-lineman just for the fact that I think the Giants need to go out and get a blue-chip top free agent or two linemen because the whole, trying to develop these O-linemen while you have a franchise quarterback, they think, in Daniel Jones, trying to develop these guys in front of him, it takes at least a couple of years. Meanwhile, he's back there just getting killed. And, they went and got Glowinski. They can't decide who's going to be the other guard. Is it Bredesen, McKeithen? All these guys, they keep switching. I feel like go out in free agency, get you a couple of blue chippers, top guys on the market, stick them in there, maybe two guards or whatever, stick them in there, and then you got Thomas, and you got Neal, maybe he'll develop,
and then you got an O-line that's competent, because what they're doing right now, I don't know if it's the O-line culture, but something is just not working, you know?
Vic, with all due respect, though, like, it's not like these blue chip, high-level offensive linemen are just a dime a dozen in free agency. And then when they are, it's not a sure thing. I mean, you know, with all due respect to Nate Solder and his career, you know, he came to the Giants. Exactly, you know? And so you think, you know, there's sometimes that you think you're getting one, and you know, it doesn't always translate.
I think also the thing you have to think about is the salary cap, because when you go out and you get the guy you think is the best guy, you pay him a lot of money, and he is the best guy, he handicaps other things you're trying to do. So that's the hardest part of doing free agency and bringing guys in. So you kind of wind up bringing in guys that you think that could be almost a really good backup, but if we need him, we can put him in the game. And then when injuries happen and you have to play him, then you're like, okay, what are we going to do now? And that's where you get caught at. You're hoping when you're going through the process, and I'm not speaking for Joe, 'cause I don't know, but you're hoping when you go through the process that your guys are going to stay healthy. Can we keep them healthy for most of the year, if not all the year? You know, and the teams that you see with the greatest success, their offensive lines are mostly intact. When your offensive line's intact, then I don't care how bad your quarterback is, I don't care how bad your running back might be. If your offensive line's intact, you're going to get at least 4 to 5 yards every time you hand the ball off, and your quarterback's going to have a clean pocket to throw the ball to his receivers. So that's what the offensive line does.
And you know, and also these guys, I see a lot of O-lines in the league that maybe have 1 or 2 high draft pick guys on there, but the rest of these guys, you know, that maybe they were later round picks, or maybe they were just free agents, and they have an actual functioning O-line. I don't know if it's the coaching with the Giants, but it seems like no matter who they put in there, they're just horrible.
Well,
I'm just baffled.
Yeah, but think of it this way: most teams in the league don't have good lines.
Right.
That's the thing that people kind of overlook when you're looking at the Giants. I hear that a lot about the Giants, man. The Giants are struggling. The Patriots don't have a good line. Belichick's a brilliant mind, but can't get a good offensive line. The Jets don't have a good line. They're getting hit all the time. God bless Joe Burrow down there in Cincinnati, man. I feel bad for that kid every time he show up, you know. So you look at Bryce Young in Carolina. Oh, he's going to do great. I'm like, oh, but they got to work on the line. I'm like, he's too small for you to have to work on the line. And so every time you hear these teams and you look around, you see quarterbacks getting hit, knocked out of the games and all this stuff. That's because their lines aren't that good. And there are more and more teams with bad lines than there are teams with good lines. You think of good lines, you think of the Eagles. They have a really good offensive line. And then it starts to be like, maybe Miami has a good line, or do they, or they just have really fast players around them? So like it's like one of the two. Right. You don't get a lot of good lines. I think Kansas City has a decent line because they have to keep Patrick Mahomes upright so they can have chances to win. Then it kind of like, you know, it's some teams do, some teams don't, and it's really hard to get a good group of 5 guys.
Hey, Howard, so just real quick, then I'm going to let you go. I don't want to hang up the line too long. But as far as the Giants O-line, you know, from the beginning of the year to now, do you think they have just gotten better, more cohesion? Because it seems like while DeVito is taking a lot of sacks still, you know, it's like we're actually starting to look like a functioning offense where he can actually get some throws off. But when Daniel Jones was in there early in the season, he didn't even have 2 seconds to drop back, it seemed like. So is it just more of the quarterback, or do you think that O-line is just starting to, like, come together?
I think the O-line kind of improved greatly when Justin Pugh came off the couch. And I don't think people realize the effect he had on the team, from the camaraderie of the guys. That they started going out together and having dinner together and spending more time together, watching more tape together. That, you know, his old school mentality of play coming back to the team brought those guys together and brought them up a couple of. Because you got guys like Neal and Thomas on the ends. They're big guys. They're you know, big great guys and probably better athletes, but they don't do a lot of talking. Whereas Pugh is like, hey guys, let's go. What's happening? It happened and slap you on the back. What's going on? That picked up the level of everything all at once because of his presence in that O-line room and on the field.
Now, last question: What do you think the Giants are going to do at the quarterback? I know Shane addressed it in his press conference. I'm saying that they have to do something. I mean, I know they have different avenues. Mm-hmm. There's going to be quarterbacks on the market out there, guys like Fields, possibly Murray, maybe up for trades. There's going to be a lot of draft picks there. Maybe they can get a guy like Penix in the second round and get the best player they can get in the first round, mm-hmm. whether it be O-line or Harrison Jr. or whoever. But Daniel Jones, there's no guarantee he's going to start the season. So, like just Shane said, they got to do something.
If he's healthy, he'll start the season. He definitely will. But even with him being healthy, they're probably going to bring somebody in. Whether I think Madelyn said it earlier, whether it be free agency or if they draft somebody, they'll probably have to. They're going to have to address it because I think he has 2 years left on his contract going forward. Yeah. So that's not really a long time. And if he comes out and tears the world up next year, which everybody hopes, that's great. But if he comes out and he can't get started because he can't run, which is
I think he is what he is.
Well, and also regardless of whether or not he's able to start, the importance of having a solid backup quarterback, especially last season, across the league was a clinic on why you need a good backup quarterback.
Absolutely.
And so even if they're not targeting somebody to be, the next, mm-hmm. Pass the torch heir apparent, mm-hmm. it's, who's going to come in if Daniel Jones can't play, and that's a very important position to have secured.
Yeah, because you're hoping that you're going to have Saquon back. You're hoping that you're going to have everybody signed up. But if they're not signed up, then the quarterbacks will have to do a little bit more of the heavy lifting when it comes down to the offense.
Yeah, I feel like this is a major opportunity for Shane and Dable to. I mean, usually when a GM and a new coach come in, they want their guy, right?
Yep.
And I feel like they were put in a tough position with Jones in that contract. I feel like he's not really their guy. They're still kind of skeptical, but of course he's Mara's guy. He made that quite obvious. And at the time, it wasn't like, oh, let's not sign him. There's going to be quarterbacks available, this year, which wasn't the case. So the Giants were kind of put in a tough spot and just had to give him that contract and hope for the best. But they also gave him.
I think
they gave themselves an out.
I think they gave themselves out. But I think Daniel did earn his contract the year before, taking the team to the playoffs with his legs and having the numbers that he had. Everybody's like, oh, he didn't score as many touchdowns, but he literally carried the team to the playoffs with Saquon in, and sometimes when Saquon wasn't in, they found a way to win games. So I think that the early success got him his contract. And the thing that people talk to me about constantly, oh, how could you pay him that much? I mean, that's basically by next year, even now, he's almost a bargain quarterback because of how high everybody gets paid every year. The contracts keep growing. I think that if he's healthy and he can run, I think you will have, and like I said, if the offensive line is healthy, you're going to see very improved because the outside guys are getting better and better every game. So he'll have guys to get the ball to, right? That'll be great. If the offensive line gets better, gives him time, he's going to have more opportunities to get the ball down the field. So that's what you want. You want the more opportunities. His big moment's going to be, how much can he run? Can he protect himself when he's in there? That's going to be the deciding factor on him. So whether he can or he can't, whether he does a great job, if he doesn't, they will bring in someone else as a backup or, for the future, probably along the way. That's just the way they're going to have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, it's a golden opportunity, man. Draft a young quarterback high and let him sit for a year. If Jones comes out and stinks up the joint, you can get out of that contract and start fresh on a rookie quarterback pay, and it's a golden opportunity. I hope they don't mess it up.
Well, and you mentioned too, they gave him an out, but it's a very expensive out nonetheless. So it exists, but it's not. It's it's not one that you. It's in case
you want to go. It's not a road you want to go.
I'm not looking for an out. I'm looking for wins.
Exactly.
So I want him to do great always.
What do you guys think happened though? I'm sorry. What do you guys think happened from the end of last year of playing so great and winning a playoff game to the beginning of this year and looking like this horrible? What happened between that time?
The offensive line just never made it. The offensive line never made it along. They never got back. They
were pretty much the same though.
Well,
right?
Andrew Thomas got hurt in
Week
game one.
Yeah.
So as much as you think, you look at the way that Brian Dable was talking about this team in training camp, saying every position is open for competition except for left tackle. That was even the head coach said that's the most important. Andrew Thomas was the most important piece, and in the same vein that the The Jets lost Aaron Rodgers. That's a big blow. Losing your left tackle week 1, it's not as sexy and shiny of a position. And for the layman football fan, you're not noticing that as much. But that is an extremely important position. And that Andrew Thomas going down.
Then you start shuffling.
Especially when you have 3 games in 11 days to start the season without a starting left tackle against 2 of those 3 games against, teams that are among the best in the league right now.
Left tackle goes down. Your center goes down to a game later. Then you shuffling guys around. Evan Neal's twisted an ankle. Now he's limping. You shuffle another guy over. He's like, okay, you gotta play. But you gotta play.
Right.
Like you don't have enough bodies, so you start shuffling guys in, and you got guards playing tackle, and okay, well, Daniel, figure it out. Oh, so, by the way, Saquon's not going to be playing. He hurt his ankle as well. So that when you're asked what happened.
And by the way, you're going against Micah Parsons and Nick Bosa and all this while all this is going on. So you'll be fine. You'll be just fine. Yeah.
You'll be okay.
You'll be all right.
It got so bad that the linemen were apologizing to him after games and stuff. Like it was. He was like, hey,
and
man.
they knew.
He was like, God, just keep fighting, guys.
Yeah.
That's all he kept saying. Keep fighting, guys. So it's just one of those things.
Yeah. Thanks so much for the call, Vic. Appreciate you taking the time. Bay Area's Vic, who's out in Vegas. Hopefully you get to check out that Usher show, too. I've heard good things.
Oh, my goodness. It's like Usher. Everybody, you're an Usher person. I can see that.
It's 7 o'clock. Where's Usher? Do you know, Howard?
I don't know.
It's 7 o'clock.
I
on
don't
the block.
Oh my God!
I'm in the drop top, cruising the streets. That's where Usher is. He's got a real pretty young thing. Just waiting for him. Anyway, these are the important things that you call in a Big Blue Kickoff Live to talk about. I mean, hey, Usher's going to be halftime the Super Bowl. You got to get familiar with the catalog.
You know what? You got to get ready for the catalog.
Get familiar, Howard.
Get ready.
Hey, join us on Sunday, December 17th at Tommy's Tavern in Clifton, New Jersey to watch the Giants take on New Orleans. Enjoy Modelo drink specials, meet a Giants legend, and enter a raffle to win game tickets and more. Visit giants.com/bar network to learn more. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. Let's go back to the phone lines. Greg in Florida. Greg, you're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Madelyn and Howard. How's it going?
Hi, guys. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Doing great. How are you doing, Greg?
Greg's out in sunny Florida.
See, Greg's on Team Sunshine, too. I can already tell. I can already tell.
It's a little overcast today, but it's nowhere near as cold as it is up there. All right, so Madelyn, first of all, I love your enthusiasm about the rest of the season. All right, keep that up, and I'm sure you'll convince Howard that anything is possible. He knows that. So
gotta have a silver lining.
He's done about a week.
Eternal optimist.
All right, okay.
I'm an Italian from New Jersey. I'm really pulling for Tommy. I really am. All right, I grew up in Woodbridge, New Jersey, right down the road there. Anyway, so I'm glad he's getting an opportunity to perform. Hopefully he'll be able to grind out some kind of a career in the NFL because he's working really hard. And I'm really happy about that. I really am. Now, here's one of my concerns. I've been a Giant fan. I'm 75 years old. I've been a Giant fan since I was 4 years old. My first thing is this. Saquon is an incredible running back. But with our O-line as questionable as it's been all year, why do they keep trying to run him off the guard or run off the tackle? Why aren't they getting him the ball outside more often? He's incredible in the open field. Quick passes, quick slants, anything. And to the tight end, too, as you guys were talking about earlier. Tommy DeVito is he's dropping back and he's looking. He wants to make the big plays to Hyatt. I understand all that. But we need some quick plays, and we need to get the ball to Saquon outside in the open field. Do you agree or disagree?
A little bit yes and a little bit no, and this is why. You have to run him directly ahead sometimes to get some of those dirty yards so you can make the team so you'll know what they're doing. When Saquon moves in motion or when you pitch him the ball on the outside, the linebackers are already flowing in his direction as soon as he heads out. So they're watching him constantly. Most teams are saying, we're not going to we'll let Tommy beat us. but we're not going to let Saquon beat us. Make sure Saquon doesn't have explosive plays. Don't make sure Saquon doesn't break for a 40-yard run or a 50-yard run. Let's try to keep him contained. So they're really hyper-focused on what Saquon's doing. So what you can do with that is, like, fake the ball to Saquon or have a pass play where Saquon pretends to block and then checks out late. Because when he steps into the line, the linebackers take their eyes off of him, and that's when you can get the ball to him on the outside. You can also, as far as you can't throw the screen on the outside to Saquon, because the moment he goes out there, like nine people plus 2 refs come over there to tackle him. So you have to, so you kind of have to understand how the other teams are looking at him. They are paying attention to him. It's different when Daniel's in the game, because when Daniel's in the game, if you take all your eyes on Saquon, Daniel will run for 40 out the other side. So you have to kind of keep the field a little balanced. Now it's like, okay, there is no threat of the QB running for 40 yards, so let's stay on Saquon, and that's what you're looking at right now.
Yeah, and I understand we've got to keep it honest and run them up there every once in a while. I just scream at the TV and I question some of the calls at certain times. So, but that's a diehard Giants.
Yeah, but you got to hope that these guys are going to block him. You got to, hey, if you get just get on the edge or something, maybe he cuts free. But it's the problem is when guys are coming loose through the middle. I don't think running to the edge will even help if somebody's in the backfield already.
Yeah, and I know DeVito can run a little, so I don't know if they want to work on that a little bit more also. Anyway, my last comment, because I'm not going to be a 25-minute phone call.
Pew, pew, shots
and
fired.
that message goes out to all the phone call people, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I taught digital video television production at high school here. So, here's my last thing. The officiating. Oh, my God. The officiating. In this day and age with the video and the conferencing, when you see blatant calls that these refs miss, will the NFL ever say, timeout, that was terrible, we're going to call that from upstairs? Will that ever happen? Because, when you see blatant calls, not only to the Giants, in the whole NFL, you go, oh, my God, how are they getting it? And I know they're human. The referees, but do you think they'll make some changes?
Absolutely not. And this is why. Every officiating group, every official individually has a scouting report out on them. So the teams in the league know what they're calling, what they're not going to call, and even though we know as fans, as we're watching the game, like, oh my God, how could they miss that? The team knows that they're going to miss that before it happens. So they're making calls and stuff to defend themselves against. Remember when Belichick used to run all of his guys on the field and put them in different spots, and the other team would have to call a timeout? Even he would know, the officials wouldn't know what to do, and they started, putting rules in to prevent him from doing things to the officials to confuse the game. But the officials, like from way back in my time, they have a scouting report on every official. You know what the officials are going to do. You know what they're not going to call, what they're going to call. And you know which ones you can ride and which ones you can't ride. If you put something in that they can correct every call, the game will be coached differently and the games will slow down. Because if you get every call correctly, there's a bad call, there's a holding on every play, there's a hands to the face probably on every play. Every ball thrown down the field, there's some sort of pass interference or illegal contact. On every play, there's something going on.
Well, and just like you look at with what Major League Baseball has done to change their game to speed it up, I don't think the NFL is going to implement things that would slow it down.
And it would stop the game. The games would be 7 hours long.
Yeah.
It would be incredible.
Well, I understand. But here's one example, though, they could correct. We got a play clock, 40 seconds. You got to get your play off. The refs are trying to watch the clock and watch the ball snap. In Bluetooth era, if they put warnings on the refs' belts, and when it hits 0, a buzzer went off, they could call it more accurately. I see guys snapping the ball a second after 0 on the clock. It's so annoying.
Well, the official's watching the clock, and he looks down to see if the ball is snapped. So when the clock is at 0 and he looks forward, if the ball hasn't snapped, he has his hand on his flag and his whistle. If it still hasn't snapped, he will blow it. If it snaps kind of almost what we would consider simultaneously or just a half a beat off, that's him raising his eyes. That's what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I said, they could send a message to them electronically saying, okay, it's 0. And if the ball's still on the ground with the center, call the penalty.
Would you click it at Would you click it at 0 or after it hit 0?
Right, and it's whoever's sending the message. What if they sleep finger?
There's all kinds
always,
of things. There's so much to this.
There's always something. There's always something. Thanks so much for the call, Greg.
No AI in football.
You know what I think as a football fan, just putting my football fan hat on, you know what I think the one thing that could be enhancing this is at the end of the game, you hear a press conference from the head coach, you hear a press conference from the quarterback. What if we had official press conferences? What if the crew chiefs had a press conference at the end of the game and they're like,
that wouldn't be good.
I saw.
No, that wouldn't be good.
It wouldn't be good. But you know what? I'm here for the chaos. That would be fun.
But you know what I think about officials? It is a very thankless job.
It's a thankless job. It's a hard job.
It is.
And you're always upsetting someone. And for the people out there who have to know the game in and out, know the rules in and out, know it so well, of course there's going to be a moment where you're not flawless, and it's like a kicker, you get the job done, you get the field goal, great, it's expected. You miss it, it's like, oh gosh,
you're running backwards watching a guy try to catch the ball with
slacks
in two hands. Did he get two hands with the ball? Did he get both feet down? Like, am I watching the hands? Am I watching the feet? What am I watching? And who's watching it if I'm not watching?
You try to keep it up with Tyreek Hill and slacks, like.
So it's pretty funny. Like, so I think they do a pretty good job. I don't think they get all the calls right. I would never. I'm not a guy. I would never want to be an official. I wouldn't want people yelling at me because no matter what I'm doing something wrong. 50% of the people are not going to like me all the time.
Any of us in our day-to-day job, you're not flawless. You're not completely perfect. And if you had somebody watching over everything you did, and there you go, made a mistake, let's blow it up. And instead of saying, that was a great call, you never hear, good job on the official for catching that, good job on the official for making that call. It's like, okay, and.
No, sometimes,
but you're right.
When they do the replays, they say, well, it looks like they got it right.
They got it, but that's different than praise.
Yeah, I guess.
It's like confirmation versus like applause.
I think a praise for an official is like you don't talk about them after the game.
Exactly. A lot of respect for the officials, men and women who do that job.
God bless them.
Week in and week out.
Yeah, one more call.
201-939-4513. Dion in Brooklyn. You're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Madelyn and Howard. Dion, how's it going?
Yes. How's it going? How you guys doing? How you doing, Howard?
Very good. How you doing, Dion?
I'm doing good. So, a couple points I wanted to touch on.
Hey, Dion, can I ask you to turn down the volume in the background because we're getting the feedback of it?
Okay, sorry. Can you
that's
hear me
okay.
now?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a couple points I wanted to touch on. When I listened to the Joe Shane interview, right, there's a couple things that got me concerned. When he said that Daniel Jones, when healthy, he would be the starting quarterback for the New York Giants next year. Okay. Now, I'm the fan that, you got a lot of fans that want us to tank. They want us to, get a high draft pick so we can get a quarterback. Then you have a lot of fans that want us to win. They don't want to see the team tank. But I'm concerned that, in my opinion, I believe that in this draft, Joe Shane and Brian Dable, they have to attack this draft with addressing the quarterback situation. Because in my opinion, I believe if they don't address the quarterback situation aggressively, that this is going to be their last year being with the New York Giants. And the reason I say that is because I believe Daniel Jones is not the answer. A lot of fans agree. A lot of fans may disagree. But he started 6 games this year, and I believe it was 6 or 7 games. And all year he just looked atrocious. He looked confused. He didn't look comfortable. And we watched Daniel Jones for going on 6 years. And if you can't be fully confident in the quarterback that's leading your team to believe that he can ultimately get us to the goal of winning the Super Bowl, you have to get it. You have to get a new quarterback. And when he said that,
can I ask you a quick question though?
Okay, go ahead.
Name the quarterback that would have been comfortable probably getting hit and sacked over 40 times in that 6 game snap.
I agree. It may have not been a lot. But what I can say is you do have quarterbacks that can overcome a bad O-line. They can try their best to overcome a bad O-line. You know, I understand we had a lot of injuries. We dealt with injuries, but you know, for 6 years we done constantly.
There are no quarterbacks that overcome bad lines.
Well, Joe Burrow did it. 2 years ago.
Joe Burrow is out.
Right. But the year they went to the Super Bowl, he did lead his team to the Super Bowl, and I believe he was the most sacked quarterback in the league that year, if I'm not mistaken.
That's one QB, and he's out now. He got hurt. He was hurt before the season started. He's hurt now. He leaves. He gets hurt every season, and he just kind of keeps coming back and keeps getting hurt. Mm-hmm. That's not the life you want for your quarterback.
Right. I mean, you look at what happened to Andrew Luck.
Andrew Luck got beat up so bad, he just left the league.
He left the league.
I'm not having fun.
And Daniel Jones has already been sacked more times than Andrew Luck was in like 25 fewer games. Mm-hmm. So
I appreciate you want it. We're going to let you go, but because of the background noise, unfortunately, I appreciate him saying that, and I get it because as a fan, I get what fans are saying. Like, I don't think Daniel's making it. I don't think Daniel's this. I don't think Daniel's that. But you got to look at what's going on in front of him. Yeah. Because he is, well, you know, if he's not, then, you know, like when you have guys apologizing to you after games, sometimes that's just not, it's not conducive for anybody. I'm going to issue a warning to all Giants fans. Daniel Jones, Brett Favre, whoever you want to put back there at quarterback, if they can't protect them, they will not stand very long. Right. It's impossible.
Exactly. And it's, you know, it's easy to say, it's easy to point to the quarterback when you're saying, oh, this didn't go well, it's the quarterback's fault. But that's a really elementary view of the game because there's so many other elements that come into play. If the quarterback is not in a position to actually execute his job in the way that he's supposed to do, you can't put all of it on the quarterback.
I watched Eli Manning, you know, have years where he would, you know, chuck and duck because he wasn't protected. Then I saw him in years when he was protected and he was to the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. So I don't think fans understand like how hard, like guys like Eli that you know could answer the bell every time because he didn't take the extra hits when he was running the ball. Mm-hmm. But I don't think you get it like that. It's too hard to do. Like I love Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow's a super talented quarterback. He could be a game-changing quarterback. But if he keeps getting hit, his career will be pretty much over. And they're ruining his career by letting him get hit so much.
Yeah. It's not ideal indeed. No. And that's the priority. And that's why it's so hard to come by, too. You know, we had a caller earlier talking about, get some talented offensive linemen in free agency. It's not often that talented offensive linemen reach free agency because of the fact that that position is so valued that if you're doing well, if you're succeeding at that position, the team you're on is locking you down.
And the amount of money that you have to pay to shake one of those guys loose is like it skews your cap.
It really does. Yeah. It really does, which is why that is such an imperative position to build through the draft.
Yep.
It is. All right. Well, it's been a fun show today, Howard.
Thank you.
It's a Tuesday. Fist bump? No?
Fist bump.
Okay, there we go.
I thought you were just pointing at me.
I was pointing at you with my fist, you know. This is how we point in the year of 2023.
There we go.
Well, this is a wrap for our bye week content as well, because much like the players and the coaches and everyone else around the organization, the production crew is taking some time off as well. Mm-hmm. But, you know, we'll be back with more content next week. We've got a lot of content on Giants.com, and we'll continue to do so throughout the week and keep you up to date with all the latest Big Blue news. But thanks so much for tuning in to this show today. It's a Big Blue Kickoff Live with Howard Cross. I'm Madelyn Burke. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of Big Blue Kickoff Live, which is a part of the Giants podcast platforms everywhere and Giants.com/podcast. We'll see you next time.